welcome back to my channel. I'm Liam. The buyers are finally over. We can recuperate, see where our teams have ended up. Mine, not too bad. I was fairly happy with how my team progressed through the buy period. My scoring, not until the last round did I do something decent, but that doesn't matter in this video. This video is for everyone about what possible trades we could do in the upcoming round 15 weekend. There's a few options depending on how you sit in the ranks, how you sit with trades left. I currently have 7 left. I'm technically done. Technically a complete team with no rookies on field, but I do have Nick Haynes and Danaher, who I'd like to get rid of in a couple of weeks. Danaher as soon as possible, but Haynes in a couple of weeks' time. He's an option this week, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. I unfortunately have the Duncan issue. I don't know. It's a pod compared to. I don't think many of you would have him, but I have to get rid of him to a premium mid. So that's another thing I'll discuss later on, which if you're looking for a premium mid, who do you want? But to start off with, rookies for this week, there's a few right for the picking. Which one do we go this week? Depending on your structure, these rookies most likely won't be playing in your field. They might be your emergencies, your M9s, your D7s, your F7s. So it'd be handy if they do have some decent job security. Probably more than scoring potential, because you probably won't be trading these players out. You want them just as cover, just in case for late out. Or if you run out of trades at the end, that's when you want the scoring potential. But you want them playing first. The cash doesn't overly matter as much. And again, the higher averaging player might not be the better option. If you can, for example, with a Newcomb, even though he's probably much worse than Edwards, if 15k can get you a better player, certainly I would be looking at taking the 15k extra with a rookie and moving on. But just looking at these rookies individually, Reeves with Flynn back-to-back 100s, I probably wouldn't want to trade him out just as of yet. He's got a little bit more cash to make. I unfortunately traded him out early, but I wouldn't look to Reeves as Flynn owners. You want hope Reeves comes in a couple of weeks' time. Or with Flynn, just chuck him down to 102k. I think from Geelong there's Tsitsipalos or something. We're a handy loophole later in the season. Ruck's the easiest place to loophole with Gawn and Grundy or Nat Nui or Darcy, whoever you have there. Just chuck one of them as emergency and just leave that 102k player on the field with the C on. And it's an easy loop. Nothing to worry about fiddling around in your fence, midfield or forwards. It'll be unlikely that one of those rucks go down. And if they do one of them go down, not many teams would have heaps of cover at the back end. And you probably want to trade them anyway if they're. You don't want to play a rookie at the back end of the season. So Reeves becomes probably not the best option. As also price, as I said before, price is fairly irrelevant at this stage. That extra 20k might help you fund a better upgrade. So I would, from now on, I feel like go for a Tsitsipalos over a Reeves type of player. Luke Edwards is probably going to be the most popular player traded in this week. I'm looking at between him and Briggs. He has pretty decent job security, I feel. But with it is a little bit of an unknown with a lot of West Coast players out with injury, and when they're coming back, I think Shuey's back either this week or next. how does that affect? It might affect his scoring potential, but I feel like he's played a good enough few games that he can hold his spot out there on the wing um, and be handy for the future rounds. Bramble played one game, so I wouldn't look at him. Even Dukin, again, as I said, if he funds a trade, he's certainly an option. Might not be the best like M9, but if he's like an M10, M11, they don't really have much use at the end of the season. He could be an option, but his job security might be in a bit of trouble after having a shaky game last week. But Hawthorn do like to keep playing their rookies, so just have to wait and see on that one. But Luke Edwards over him if cash doesn't matter. Briggs, I was tempted to bring him in last week to field an extra player. Would have got me an extra 69. I don't know if that will work out in the long run, save me a trade, but he's certainly an option if he gets named this week. I actually don't mind his role playing 50-50 ruck with Flynn. Rucks tend to be scored very nicely in Supercoach. He out to advantage is like 4 points. Contested possession, handball, 5 points. It's very nice for Ruckman. So,
did you have one?
So, yeah, he's a decent option to bring in this week, and his flexibility is very handy if you want to. If a rookie comes in later on the season in a defender or forward spot, you can flick him in between. That becomes pretty handy at back end. Don't really have any other options that I would look at bringing in this week. Foley's just a bit too expensive for my liking. But yeah, so that's the rookies. Look at Walker possibly for next week. Then Bramble if he can hold his spot. With rookies, I only look for about the 100k, max 123k players. It's about having a better team on field. Bench scoring, now the buys are gone, is fairly useless. But again, if you are stuck with trades and you want to have a safe cover, by all means, pick a player with a higher price, but just be warned that might affect your scoring in the next couple of weeks. It's just a risk versus reward sort of thing. On to more trade targets. There's a couple of bid prices which I would like to talk about first. Stringer with his 180 last week. Can he keep doing that? No. But if he keeps that roll up, it's a very, very nice Supercoach roll that he has at Essendon. With McGrath out, Shield might be back in a few weeks. Wait and see on that. But if you're wanting a pod, I wouldn't touch him with a bar of soap. But if you're down in the dust, can't get to a premium forward of such, he's a nice little stepping stone that you could use because he's got an extremely low break even this week. Does face Melbourne and Geelong in the next two. It's a bit worrying signs. He's a bit injury prone as well, but anyone who can has a ceiling of 180 might be a handy little grab at this time of season, especially if you've got trades in hand. Could be used as a mini stepping stone to a Zorko type. So I'm certainly not doing it, but it's only an option for people out there. Another one I like is who I brought in last week, Nick Haynes. Might be 1 week too late, but I do like his role with Davis back. Doesn't have to take a key. Have to take a key back, and so he's freed up a fair bit. Giants love possession football, especially in the back line, and he's pretty good at his spoiling. Gets a few points in that, and intercept marking, which gets you, like Tommy Stewart, gets you a few. It doesn't seem to get you a few extra points, but it looks good watching the game. But his contested ball and defence is pretty good, and I would take 96. If he can go 96 for the next couple of weeks, he'll make a nice 100k, which could be used as a stepping stone. Which I am using him at the very moment. But if he does score well, could save you a trade and fix up another area in your team. So those are the mid prices that I'll be looking at this week. When it comes to premiums, I'll start in the defensive line. Stewart has had an amazing couple of weeks. It's better for him when against harder opposition. The ball's down there a bit more. He reads the play so well. Geelong's backline is structured very nicely for him just to roam back there. Takes a few kick outs, gets a nice few cheap kicks in the backline. He's got a very nice Supercoach role. He'll have a low break even this week. I know that doesn't matter as such, but you could get him for $550 this week, and he might be $580 in a few couple of weeks. He's probably. I still would prefer Laird over him with Laird's midfield role. He's killing it at the moment, but most people do have him, as does with Stewart now 35% owned. Those two, along with Mills, be my top three defenders for the year. I'm out with defenders at this very moment, so I'm not looking at bringing any of them in. But those three are nice options. A pod in defence, I don't mind. Luke Ryan, especially against Collingwood this week, could absolutely rack up in the back line if you want a 1 week hit. Whitfield finally had a good game, backed up his poor score from last week with 126. Probably not more. Is more of a fantasy player. Loves a cheap kick. And needs a lot of possessions to get to these type of scores, but he loves those cheap little kicks around the ground. And with GWS, I thought they were improving until they played North last week, but they do play Hawthorn this week, so I feel like he's got another good game to rack up the points. And Crisp is probably my last option I'd like. Playing more of a midfield role. Had a disappointing game a few weeks ago, but I feel like he can bounce while he was tagging Petrarca, I think it was. But I feel like he's got a very nice Supercoach role for the back end of the season. So that's the defenders I'm looking at. Forwards, Zorko. He is pretty expensive at this moment. I probably wouldn't. He will be a top 3 forward, but with Neil back, I just don't think he can keep up this scoring. But he will, if you can afford him, go for it. But just beware. I don't think he's going to go the 130s that he has been in the last few weeks. Probably drop to 115, 110, which is still pretty good. 600 is paying a little. It's paying a stack for him, but if you have the cash for it, certainly do it. I'll probably be holding off. I feel like he'll drop about 50-ish K and then in a couple of weeks, about 3 or 4 weeks time. So, and then I'll try and jump on him then. Dunkley's not going to play. Dixon is an interesting one. Plays Sydney this week. I just don't like bringing key forwards. They just are so volatile. You saw with Hawkins last week. They can throw up a 120, but they can easily throw up a 50. So wouldn't look at him. The North boys have both favourable matchups this week. I feel like everyone has Zeeble. Aaron Hall, 550. It's nervous times if you want to bring him in. But I feel like he's probably on par, even just better than Zorko, and for 50k cheaper, certainly pick him over Zorko. Talked about Stringer before, Langford. Probably that halts his price rise, and with Stringer having more of a midfield role, I think that's affecting him slightly. I love Shea Bolton, picking him up, and he's a solid option to bring in the next couple of weeks, and same as Dusty, but I feel like everyone has him. Toby Green, a few people will be jumping on him this week against Hawthorn. I do probably see another 120 coming in. Just be aware he's sometimes a little volatile with scoring as key forwards. Even though he's not a key forward, just a forward in general. He needed 5 goals to get to 125. So he probably needs 3 goals a week to get to 100, which you're wanting. But forwards are hard to come by at this very moment. So certainly an option against Hawthorn this week. There's no other players I'd look at in this price bracket. Rucks. Grundy might probably be back this week, but I probably wouldn't jump on him if you traded him out. He'll drop 30 or 40k in the next couple of weeks. It would be right for the picking then. It is a hard one because you probably want him as soon as possible. But if you can hold off, I would. Nat Nui's probably the next best option. Can he keep up his form? He plays Bulldogs this week. If Steph Martin's not back, it's a juicy matchup to bring him in this week. And Darcy's been in some pretty strong form as well. But I would prefer two of Nick Nat, Gawn and Grundy to have at the back end of the season. Mids far out there. Just throw a blanket over all these. If you want just a slightly cheaper option, Crouch and Simpkin have hit a bit of form as of late. Do I think they can keep it up? Probably not the 130, 125, but 110, 115 I think they can do. Brad Crouch has finally got his chemistry up with the Saints and is just a natural ball winner. So he's the one I'm tempted to bring in for Duncan just to save some cash this week. And as a little bit of a pod as well to try and move up the ranks. Simpkin has had 30 or more disposals in Tassie the last 3 weeks. And that's shown with his average of 124 in the last 3. Likes playing in Tassie. Won't get much attention. I feel like he's actually a decent option, but he's just got those end of season feels what he did last year. He got some attention and then threw up some stinkers. He is pretty easily tagged, can be easily tagged out of the game, but with Cunnington having one of his best seasons, I don't see him getting tagged anytime soon, so he's certainly an option. With the big boys, still I like at 625. He does have a tough little run at the end of his season, which I'm a little bit worried about. But for now, he's 140 in the last 3. He's 30k down on what he started at. Underpriced and certainly a VC and captain option for rounds ahead. Parrish, I probably wouldn't touch him at 674, just not now. If you're already on him, good work, but I think 674 is a bit too much to pay for him. Bontempelli, I think, is worth 100, still worth that price at 690. He's just a super coach pig and in career best form at this very moment and pretty much untaggable. So, a brilliant captain option each week. Wines has hit a bit of form. I just wouldn't pay 600 for him. Took Miller, from what we're seeing, is pretty much untaggable, but that 107, I know it's only 107, but he's probably going to start dropping a little bit in price with that score in his belt. Plays North this week, so it's a very juicy matchup. But I wouldn't touch him if you don't already have him. McRae, wait a little bit after his 97. But any of these guys are good options. I thought Lyons might have been affected with Neil back, but that was not the case. Another brilliant option to bring in. With Neil, he is very juicy after his 150. Low break even, however, he does play Geelong this week, and is with O'Connor about. I just wouldn't want to risk bringing him in this week for. I don't think he gets more than 80, to be brutally honest. O'Connor's got his number at the start of the season, and I feel like he's going to do the same this week. I'm just a bit scared, and Neil's pretty susceptible to a tag, so it's annoying that they play Geelong this week, and when he's right for the picking. If you're happy to take a 80 this week, I do see him being a gun in the last 8 rounds. That's up to you. I'm debating it, but I might just wait a little bit longer for Neil. Mitchell has hit a bit of form, but I prefer him in DT and AFL Fantasy over Supercoach. He just wastes the ball a little bit too much for my liking, and has had a few poor scores and susceptible probably to the De Boer tag next week. So that's my thoughts for this upcoming round 15 with regards to trades. I'll be back on Thursday with what I'm planning on doing. Probably pretty obvious that I have to get rid of Duncan. I'm most likely looking at Jones down to either Briggs or Edwards, depending on teams, and then Duncan up to. I'll see what my plans have to say, because I really want to get. I'm tempted by Danger in the next few weeks. He had a good second half last week. Had a very slow start, but picked up his scoring, and I feel like he'll be a handy little mini pod at the end of the season. And looking to get rid of Danaher to him, so I might save a bit of cash by going a cheaper midfielder, so I can save a trade to bring in Dangerfield next week. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. If you've got any queries about your teams, just let me know in the comments. And until Thursday, have a good one.